That's right. Aquan Lushers Nukash, Cookby Kanaka Hans Quest, Cookstave Shashingo, Cookstave Fraser Basin Council. I just quickly thanked the Coast Salish people for hosting us. So let's get crack-a-lackin', okay? Anybody know me? Anybody hear me speak before? Right. Hang on to your pants, folks. Here we go. All right. How do you take on climate change? With a huge bloody sense of humor. That is a photobomb. My kid says, no, sticking your face in a picture isn't photobombing. That's a selfie. I didn't know that. That's me and Aaron speaking to the Minister of Agriculture federally over in Penticton, where we said the people of the salmon have to become the people of the potato. Thank you very much, Canada. All right, button. All right, first and foremost, the Untitled Nation is located here. They're in the red polygon. The Tla'akla'kw is my community. We form one of 69 communities that make up the nation. With the Indian Act, we were relegated down to 15 Indian Act bands. So that's nation lands. That's community traditional territory. Boom, right? Woo! Okay. Guess what? For 8,000 years, the nation lands in my traditional territory sustained an Indigenous population. Thank you very much. And the land produced the resources, and somehow we managed to live. Then something happened. It was called Simon Fraser got lost in 1808. He was looking for the Columbia River Basin, but he wound up in Lytton anyway. He said, so who are you? We said, we're the Tla'akla'kw. He said, oh, the Hakmuk are the lung oysters. Since he couldn't pronounce our traditional name, he named us the Couteau tribe. All righty, David, comment dit ton knife en français, s'il vous plaît? Couteau. So with contact comes change, and the first damn thing that happened was we were named the Couteau tribe, or the people of the knife. And so the people of the knife lasted for about 50 years until the English took over, right? And renamed us the Thompson Indians. So the question is, who the hell fought Manifest Destiny to a standstill? The Couteau tribe, or the Thompson Indians, or the Tla'akla'kw? Do you know what happens when you decapitate an American gold miner and throw him in the river? They're like Hydra that multiplied and came back. So needless to say, contact caused conflict. Colony was declared in 1858. Confederation occurred in 1871. 150 years later, we're facing an existential crisis. Thank you very much again, Canada. My grandmother said, for 8,000 years, this is all you needed to live, right? Boom, 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 right? For without, you fight, die, move, or innovate. Well, I can tell you, my nation ain't fighting anymore because the criminal code doesn't mean I can't kill colonizers and I can't sell the settler governments. I can't beat you up. So much for fighting. I ain't dead, despite the best efforts of a lot of people. I ain't moving. So how about we move back to the old ways? It ain't innovative to go back to a way of lifestyle that sustained an Indigenous people for 8,000 years. What we got instead is a pipeline. Thank you very much again, Canada, right? So what we've got here now is this incredible challenge, okay? These physical impacts of climate change, there's risk, there's probability, there's consequences. Whatever you think is going to happen is happening, right? This is on our website. That's why I'm able to go through this fast. The question is, what are we going to do about it, okay? So that first slide was a global assessment. This is what's happening at my community. In the last 15 years, we are scared witless, but not anymore. Because we've established a plan to guarantee my community, my family, my region 100% air, water, food, shelter, and energy self-sufficiency. Would you like to know more? Right? So guess what? The problem is my grandfather's knowledge isn't applicable today. What she taught me up until her passing, my mom's passing, they weren't dealing with climate change. I was. So how then do we verify what we see in the land? Ecosystems are disappearing, right? So we thought, maybe we should bring in somebody smarter than us. Aaron Coelho, your turn.
I knew that was going to be tough to follow. Now that you're all awake, here's my chance to slow it down a bit. So I'm just going to go over really quickly, actually, just an overview of the climate change vulnerability assessment we did with KANAKA Bar. It is funded by the First Nations Adapt program, similar to the previous two presenters, so a very great program. Very simple kind of overview of the steps involved. We looked at climate change projections using the most best available resources from the Pacific Climate Impacts Consortium, Climate BC, and others. It was a community values-based approach, so lots of engagement to understand, where do we need to focus the priorities of the assessment. We conducted a vulnerability assessment, which included looking at sensitivity, exposure, and adaptive capacity of different community elements to the impacts and hazards that we found with climate change for the KANAKA Bar area. And then we did a risk assessment and developed, through likelihood and consequence, some severity ratings to prioritize those different impacts. And we took that to the community to basically go through it with them and get their input and refine that, so that the plan was very focused on their needs. And then we developed an adaptation strategy. So this showed up okay. But so part of this was with the climate projections was to understand, how is climate going to change at KANAKA Bar? And to do that, you want to first establish a baseline. However, the challenge was there's not a nearby weather station to KANAKA Bar. The nearest one's 15 kilometers up the road in Lytton. The Fraser Canyon itself is full of microclimates, so that data isn't necessarily representative of KANAKA Bar. One of the main concerns that KANAKA brought forward at the start of this project was the impacts to their water resources. They have 2 creeks, one of which supplies the drinking water for the community. It has a very relatively low flow. There's a base flows of about 10 liters to 20 liters per second. So not a lot of water there, but it does supply the community. And what we've heard from KANAKA Bar is that this watershed, the creek, always runs for 7,000 plus years. It has never went dry. It is such a valuable resource to the community. But with climate change now, how is that going to impact that water resource and the community's long-term goals, their growth, their increased water use? Will there be clean drinking water for the community for the long term? So as part of that, we did some hydrologic analysis. Of course, there was no hydrometric stations at the time on either creek. The nearest Water Survey Canada stations were from large rivers, the Thompson River, Nahatlatch, Spias Creek, much larger than these, so very difficult to get accurate estimate of projections for the hydrology of these creeks. So as part of the engagement, we got together with the community and we asked them, what they have noticed over their lifetime in the community. And this is where they were really drawing on traditional knowledge. So not just what happened in their lifetime, but what's been passed on from their ancestors from generation to generation, that deep knowledge of the land, the plants, the animals, the water resources, and how that now is different from what they know and what their ancestors have known. So things like no longer having snow in the mountaintops across the valley, different distribution of plants and animals. The returns on the salmon decline. Salmon is a big part of the KANAKA Bar culture and spirituality and main food source, so food security. Through this whole process, this is a summary table of the plan, some of the themes within the plan, so water resources, forest fires, traditional foods, access roads, self-sufficiency goals that KANAKA is working towards that the chief will tell you a bit more about after me, and youth and community engagement. So a big part of what KANAKA's plan has is youth engagement. So every year there are youth students that work at the band. We put on a climate change workshop. Last year it was expanded to include regional invites to the region, to not just youth, but everyone. So really being proactive in that space of communicating that, engaging the youth, bringing them in, making them a part of the plan, because they're the ones who are ultimately going to be the ones who implement it, who live with these future projections that we're showing. So I'm very proud to say that KANAKA Bar has completed quite a few of the things on this list. This plan was completed in the summer of 2018. And so we're almost at a point where it needs to be revisited. What more can we do? And what's great is that KANAKA Bar does these things, but they're not sacrificing any of the other initiatives that they look at. Housing, economic development, these are all going forward at the same time as becoming resilient. So really taking a holistic view. So one thing I'm going to tell you about that they've done, a very important step, is to implement some environmental monitoring. So that data, that lack of data that we, at the start of the project that we have, we're now collecting data that can support future analysis. So, KANAKA Bar now has stream flow gauging stations in 2 of those community watersheds. There's plans to add a 3rd at another watershed. There is a bunch of solar projects in KANAKA Bar. The chief will tell you a bit more about those. And they collect solar data, so understanding sun's radiation. There's an air quality monitor at the band office, so during forest fire season, you can monitor the air quality in KANAKA Bar and not rely on the nearest one, which is in Kamloops, quite a far ways away. And there are 3 weather stations. In KANAKA Bar, the elevation difference from some of the land is upwards of 300 meters. So there's 3 stations, each at different elevations to understand that site-specific data. No longer having to rely on Lytton, which the members have said is hotter and drier than KANAKA Bar. So I'll just run through a few graphs because I'm sure there's some of you out there who really enjoy data. So this is from a couple of the hydrometric stations, Moreland Creek and Necleptum Creek. The data goes from January 2018 to July 2019. There's more collecting right now as we speak that hasn't been downloaded yet. And the flow on the y-axis is in meters cubed per second. So things we're interested in are the base flows in the summertime and just tracking over time. This data gets more and more valuable the more years of it you get. So we want to see if the base flows during that critical demand time in the summer are going to continue to support the community. Is there more, less, or the same as we go into the future? So this is KANAKA Bar weather stations, the 3 stations averaged compared to Lytton. So just showing the difference in temperature. These are months along the x-axis and average temperature on the y. So you can see the monthly temperature is consistently warmer in Lytton relative to KANAKA Bar, which is what the people of KANAKA Bar have known, and now they have the actual data that when we take our climate change projections and it's a relative change or a percent change, you can apply it to actual values for KANAKA Bar. Again, this data becomes more and more valuable the longer it's collected. So across the 3 stations, so the change in elevation, lot 4 is the lowest elevation nearest the Fraser River. There's highway number 1, and then the band office in the community, which is another 100 meters above highway number 1. And you can see the difference in temperature between the 3, which is pretty consistent with what you would expect with an elevation change. Total monthly precipitation. In general, wetter in KANAKA Bar than Lytton, just as KANAKA Bar has known. So we can really see kind of how much water they're getting per year. This is really important because KANAKA Bar is moving forward with agricultural initiatives, so understanding temperature and how much water you have in precipitation and what you might need for irrigation demand. And this is the difference again between the 3 stations now in KANAKA Bar. So again, higher elevation, getting more rainfall. So at these weather stations, we're also collecting wind speed. KANAKA Bar is very interested in clean energy. There are solar panels. There's an interest in Run River Hydro project. But looking at wind, we want to look at the wind potential for a new development down at Lot 4. So tracking the wind speed here will help us look at the viability of that. Air quality data. So Chief and I just pulled this up today. It's a purple air monitor. Pretty quick and easy to install, not too expensive, and gives you good data, specifically during wildfires and so on. So you can see there was a spike earlier, just a week ago, and that actually is a result of some of the burning that's going on in the community. So there's burning for forestry operations, but also just cleaning up from winter and getting ready for spring. So you can see it recorded that spike there. All right, so I'm going to hand it back to the chief. He's going to tell you a little bit more about some of the resiliency initiatives. And back to you, Chief.
Okay, so the question of resiliency, so we survive colonization, will we survive climate change? Absolutely. So this is just a simple shot, okay? What's coming for Canadians and Indigenous people is a complete change in quality of life. For a lot of people, it's end of life. But BC and Canada is going to be okay if you make the proactive investments. right? Aesop's fable 373. The grasshopper plays and fornicates and dies in winter, but ants who invest in food sustainability survive the winter. I'm an ant. Trudeau looks suspiciously like a grasshopper, as does Trump, as well as other people. Don't tell him, okay? Because you don't bite the hand that gives you grants. I do it all the time. Okay, so I just wanted to see, so what is resiliency? It's the ability, but it's transition and adaptation, okay? But we don't do it from the hip. We have a plan that has evolved into those 4 areas: air, food, water, shelter, energy. We can't eat money. Nobody gives a rat's ass at KANAKA Bar about making money. What we're trying to do is make sure that the next 7 generations up till 2120 have a life. My grandmother said you can't eat money. Almost everything we've done makes no money. That's why nobody's doing it. Right? Guess what? When I said people of the salmon have to become people of the potato, 88 sockeye returned to my traditional territory. You tell me how in 4 years that's going to produce enough food to feed my generation. It's not. Already people know that the wild salmon population of the Fraser River is done. Whether you will admit it or not, there is no more sockeye salmon in the Fraser. Good luck with that, okay? So as a result, we've invested in food self-sufficiency. Look at that. Bida bang, bida boom. We won't care about the price of rice in China or the scarcity of California raisins caused by flooding and burning because we're growing our own meats, fruits, and vegetables. For example, one of the #1 products at KANAKA Bar that everybody's enjoying is called the K-pear. It looks suspiciously like an Asian pear, which you can buy down at the IGA for $3 a piece, or you can come to KANAKA Bar, and I'll be happy to sell you a pear for $3 because they grow at KANAKA Bar, right? This is what my land looks like. I'm Canada's hotspot. We hit 50 degrees Celsius. Does it look like it? That's my wife and granddaughter, okay? Look at this, 10 operating solar projects. I can design solar plus or minus 1 degree accuracy. Why? Because I've had 10 operating solar projects. I know solar works and I can completely power my community with it. Okay? Right, this is what I'm really pissed off about. Everybody knows that this was coming. Ask Severin, ask Greta. Why aren't you getting ready? Stop the insanity. That's Susan Powder right there. For Christ's sake, will you quit approving pipelines and give British Columbians and Canadians the money they need to invest in infrastructure that prepares us for what's coming? We need water storage. The issue is not water scarcity. The fact is water's coming in the spring and there's none in the summer. Will you give us the money to store the water so that British Columbians have water to drink in the summer? British Columbians have water for irrigation. British Columbians have water for fire protection. Because right now, the last I heard, ain't nobody funding that. So we are. What are we doing next? Well, guess what? At the end of the day, everything you need to know is online. We meet as a community every 30 days, every 6 months, we put this out. What have we done over the last 6 months? What are we doing over the next 6 months? We have a secret at KANAKA Bar. Information is power. All you have to do is go online and right-click and steal. The land use plan, the community economic development plan, our climate change assessment plan, everything we've done is available for you. The problem is, do you have 127 hours to read it? If you don't know what to do, just go to the bathroom, Wi-Fi works, and start creeping my website. This is what's coming next. 100% energy self-sufficient building, so when the power's off, people come to this space. It's a passive home. And when it's 50 degrees out, it's 2 degrees Celsius in this room. When it's 20 degrees minus, it's 2 degrees Celsius in this room. This building here will be the focal point, the emergency operations center, but for the most part, it's where we're going to go just have bingo. The crossing place. Can you imagine? 20 brand new buildings, right, that are energy. Here's the thing. We're thinking of renting out a 1-bedroom apartment for $400 a month with hydro included. Why? Because we're producing electricity, and these are tiny freaking homes. Why do we need to live in 3,000 square foot buildings when 650 should do, right? So do you want an affordable house? Call me. I'm going to have some vacancies next year, right? Here's one here. This is a blizzard, and the power's off, except at frickin' KANAKA Bar. Down at the toilet, the lights are on while the world is dark. All you have to do is slap a battery on solar and wind towers. So in a blizzard, there's a safe spot, an oasis. Here at the Must Stop Rest Stop, peeing and pooing will be free, but the commercial retail beside it is not. But we're gonna make sure that every person who stops there has free potable water. We have enough water to provide potable water for the region. And we're gonna make it available for free, because we will not charge humanity for water, right? What happens if we're wrong and we made KANAKA Bar a better place for nothing? Climate change, it's a win for me, it's a win for you. Bring it on, baby. As long as you're prepared to invest. What you do to the land or allow others to do to the land, you do to yourself. Ask our governments to stop the insanity. Ask our governments to help fund these incredible programs. They're not. I don't know why they're not. Pavi is here. She's implementing a funding program. I heard somebody announced a $40 billion program last week. The only thing is, he's in America. And Trump's going to stop that revenue flow, if I'm not sure. So that's basically it. But with your guys' blessing, and I don't know how much time is left, don't take it from me. Can you play that video, please? I'm going to steal some of your time. You guys need to watch this video because it's not about me. It's about these people.
Here at KANAKA Bar, we, the Student Youth Employment Program, are KANAKA Bar is a small rural community
within the Untitled territory
inside Canada.
There's 6 summer youth workers altogether. 4 workers work outside. There's 2 working inside, working on data entries and working on the website.
I'm doing a lot of water data entry and solar data entry because these are important to figure out the logistics of future projects.
Here at KANAKA, I've been working with the bees. I've been taking lots of photos and lots of footage, hoping to sort of document our experience here. We've been sort of experimenting with our self-sufficiency goals, so with the greenhouse, with the food forest, with the bees and the chickens.
We are building a greenhouse because KANAKA is striving towards food self-sufficiency. To me means not relying on the grocery store to get your food.
I've been working on the greenhouse and mapping around. The greenhouse is important whenever it's the wintertime. We can't really grow anything, so we'll probably grow in the greenhouse.
The greenhouse is just a little project to see if it actually works here, and if it shows really good results. The band might expand it and make more greenhouses that are bigger.
Yeah, I think the benefits of the greenhouse is because then we can grow our own food.
For KANAKA in particular, we're a really small community. We only have a handful of elders, so we are really hoping to engage the youth so that we can sort of transfer that knowledge within our community, and we can have youth to tell the story that KANAKA is doing.
Being a summer student means to me is that I'm helping out my community and benefiting our next generation to come. Working here for the past 3 years has made me realize what my band is doing, because when I first worked here, this garden was just in the planning stage and I got to help build it. Same as the chicken coop.
I feel like KANAKA has a vision.
It's really been a learning experience for all of us.
From working here, I've taken this experience in general of being in a workplace, communication, and my new skills, the skills I've learned basically, is teamwork. I realized that having a team put together can make something like a greenhouse happen quickly.
The summer has been a lot of fun working at KANAKA. Yeah, I think the work that we're doing is helping the community.
I feel good because I'm making the community a better place.
So it's really important for the youth not only to tell our sort of history and our culture passed on from our elders, but it's important for us to engage in what we're doing here today and sort of tell the world what we're doing basically. So hopefully we can inspire other communities to sort of take a look at what we're doing and maybe take back and produce something similar or maybe just something completely new in their own community.
What Serena just said there says, what we're doing at KANAKA Bar is not innovative, it's just doing things that work. We're taking on the curve, we're showing Canadians and British Columbians and municipalities and the other First Nations, if you're prepared to change your priorities and make decisions that look forward instead of back, you'll be okay. So with that, I'll leave it at that, other than I heard Serena hosted somebody called Melina, and apparently KANAKA Bars with Serena is going to be on APTN's Power to the People. We're episode number 9. We're looking forward to, we haven't seen it. So apparently there's 20 to 25 minutes of KANAKA Bar story coming up some point in time. So as soon as I find out, you know I'm gonna right click and steal it and put it on our video section. Thank you everybody, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Any inspiration out there? Yes.
I just wanted to say, I think when he said vision is important, ending the funding dependency for First Nations is huge, and to end that cycle is tremendous. I saw that you identified vulnerable populations. Indigenous people got not handouts, but they got hand-ups. And I saw social entrepreneurship, which is I'm trying to build into an adaptation plan. So that was truly inspiring to see that.
I'm going to comment right off the bat on this. Our government has produced a state that seems dependent. You know what legal anarchy is? I no longer dependent on BC Hydro because I can produce all the electricity. I'm not dependent on the grocery store for my food. The one thing is, I'm also not dependent on the government for my money. I make more money from my initiatives than I get from government transfers. I made $1.3 million last year in own source revenues, and the government gave me $400,000 in transfer. Why? Because we started investing in renewable, resilient, sustainable projects in 1978. We're living it today. As a result, did you guys know that we have no suicide? We haven't had one attempt in 35 years. Apparently, Indigenous people have children in care. Really? We don't. When you take on the impacts of colonization, you change people's hearts and minds. These kids design these projects, these kids build these projects, these kids maintain these projects, and when I die, I hope they learn how to fix them. But they're already doing it. So we empower our membership. We give them opportunity. You heard one of the kids say, oh, by the way, they look after the website. I still haven't found out all the edits they did. I found one last month that says the chief drinks 12 pots of coffee a day. That's the equivalent to X number of kilowatts. I deleted that one. Because you know what? I trusted the kids with my website. I trust the kids with my water data. I trust those kids with my solar data. I trust the kids with their future. Do you?
I think there was another question or comment. I trust mine.
I just want to acknowledge you for being an incredible leader and allowing opportunity in this community. And I was just wondering how you distribute the food you grow to the community. Or do you have big dinners, or do you have people just come in and take what they want?
Wankers! We don't deliver. When the tomatoes are ripe, they're put in a box. box and help yourself before we throw it to the chickens. If you're hungry, go to the garden and harvest it. We're breaking dependency. If you're hungry, go harvest the food. We grow it and make it available for the community as well as the region to harvest it. But you have to harvest it. We won't. Because if it falls on the ground, we feed it to the chickens. We won't deliver it door to door. So it's available for free to the membership as long as they're prepared to get off their asses and cross the road and pick it. The worst word I know, according to my membership, is no. Chief, my toilet's plugged, so? Remember, I'm balancing enablement with empowerment, and that's a tough road to hoe. You said, I thank you for your leadership. You haven't spoken to my membership lately or read Facebook, have you? For the most part, I'm known as an ass. Why? Because I challenge you. You reap what you sow. If you sit on your ass, then you're going to get what you deserve. I'm teaching and making available for everybody the opportunity to learn how to fish, because I won't give you a fish. You know the stories just as well as I do. You give people the ability to have those 4 physiological foundations, we will be okay. Next question. I have 5 minutes and 15 seconds. Last time I went till 11:30 at night.
Yeah. Don't be shy out there. Yes.
This is a technical question. You just said in 1978 you started investing in renewable energy, and now you're reaping the benefits of that. Could you tell a little bit more of that story?
Well, absolutely. I'm glad you asked.
Good question.
January 31st of 1973, at approximately 10:37 a.m., the Supreme Court of Canada got off their asses in a Calder decision and said, rights and titles exist in Canada. And for the first time in my life, my grandmother and my mother raised their eyes and made contact with the world. Until 1973, our country suppressed the Indigenous people. It took the Supreme Court of Canada. But the problem is we're now dealing with a culture of despair. It took us 5 years to realize that colonization had eliminated every ounce of self-sustainability. So we desperately started looking for a way out. And anybody who is an economist or finance person? Here? Come on, somebody put your hand up. We come from a region of Canada where we guarantee all third parties negative return on investment. You can see why there's not a lot of development. But as a result, right, we became the developers. So since nobody else wanted to come in, there's no mining, there's no oil and gas, no agriculture, no tourism, and there's always one I missed. There's no forestry. Why? Because they took it all in less than 50 years. I have no more mineral wealth. I have no more trees. I have no, well, I never had oil and gas, right? So the end result is boom and bust came along, leaving me, okay? So here's the situation. So we're going, why did my ancestors live here? Land, sun, water, wind. Wait a minute, can't you harness that? Trust me, does anybody know how solar works? I'll explain to you how. Oh, it's magic. Who cares? The technology works. So we've invested in 12 freaking projects. But we know the wind spins a dynamo, right? Takes the Canadian energy. We know that the water spins the dynamo and generates electricity. It's not innovative to use technology that had been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. So we found ways to harness the land and resources sustainably. And it was hydro that set it up. So we invested in 36 years into the development phase. 36 years. Now that's funny right there. There's a story, go onto the website, you'll see it. But eventually we got it up and running. And as a result of our one hardship project, we're able to fund all of these other initiatives. When no one else would do it, we're generating 4 to 6% return on investment, but all of the third parties wanted 14 to 18. We're a First Nations community. We can handle 6% profit. Can British Columbia, can Canadian corporations? No. So right now, we have 300 economic development opportunities. You heard this young man speak about it. And every one of them will make no money. But every one of them may not lose money. When you can design economic development that pays for your capital cost and your operating cost, let's do it. Oh, sorry, this is Canada. We don't do that here. We build pipelines. Oh, by the way, if you guys don't know it, if you go onto YouTube, KANAKA Bar is actually opposed to pipelines.
I would not have guessed.
Well, because Susan Powder, stop the insanity. Right? We sit down here and we're tripling our fossil fuel export to the market and putting in 30 new marine tanker traffics into the Burrard Inlet and saying somehow this is going to solve climate change by increasing our GHG emissions? Never could reconcile that one. Anybody? 1 minute and 2 seconds.
So what's your reserve land base? Because, you know, I'm health sick and we have 16,659 square kilometers of land that's either we claim as ours, but we have postage stamp size reserves.
What's the size of your reserve then?
Our biggest one is...
No, just total.
Total? It's like less than 200 square kilometers.
I have 40 acres! When we got blue and screwed and con too, you trust me, when you're in the Fraser Canyon, they took my 7,000 hectare traditional territory and gave me 40 acres to live on. How do you overcome that? You look at that map, that little polygon. The purple polygon area is just this. And somehow we survived. We have no reserve land base. Because you know what they did? As soon as they gave it to us, they said, oh, let's put a railroad in. So they destroyed one reserve. Let's put another railroad in. They destroyed that reserve. They liked this transportation corridor so much, they put in Highway 1. So at the end of the day, here's my land base. Reserve, railroad, reserve, highway, reserve. Our solution? Terrace it. Yeah, it's bad. It's about 40 acres of land that's available for development.
And so, like, what's your land back strategy?
Don't tell the province, but we've been using the land resources to live without the permission for the last 40 years. The former chief says, don't assert rights and titles, implement it. His final words to me were, the province should probably give us the permits before we finish the next project. It's called plausible deniability. Nobody shows up at KANAKA Bar because they say, oh shit, he's put up more projects. Did anybody give him the license of occupation? No. Did anybody give him permission to put a bridge over his creek? No. I don't have time to wait for red tape. When we have a need, we take care of business. I don't have time for federal and provincial bureaucracy and red tape. Right? Why? Because we have our own money. Our people build the roads. Our people build the bridges. Our people maintain the water lines. Our people maintain the septic fields. Our people maintain the roads. Our people. At the end of the day, I broke dependency. Right? Now, Pabby, call me. I heard you have some money. Right? So it's really important here that when it comes down to it is that start small and scale up. Change needs to be managed. It's really, really critical. We didn't go big. We started with one project, we're up to 12. We've got our first wind tower in. Our plan is to power the subdivision with a combination of 100 kilowatts of solar and 20 kilowatts of installed wind. So within 18 months, we're gonna have an entire subdivision and a community building powered by wind and sun. And it started with the first solar project 4 years ago. You've gotta break the curve. People are scared of change, is what it is. So start small, get them used to it. Show videos about kids saying, I'm not scared of tech. Why is Granny? Granny says, well, if it's okay with the kids, must be okay by me then. I will give you guys a quick story about engagement. The Must Stop Rest Stop is going to have a fruit stand. Do you know what the business case for a fruit stand is? It's negative! Do you know what the business case for e-commerce is? It's through the roof. My recipes are 8,000 years old. Granny will sell you a tomato down at the Must Stop Rest Stop. The kids will sell you sun-dried meats, fruits, and vegetables online. The economy of KANAKA Bar is going to be e-commerce as we deliver dehydrated meats, fruits, and vegetables. If you want a California raisin, you're not going to get one. But you can go online and order KANAKA Bar raisins because we can grow them. Right? So it's incredible how the youth and the elders have worked together to overcome. This is a challenge, but through innovation, we can actually do it. Can you imagine one person working the fruit stand with 8 people doing e-commerce? It's not innovative. E-commerce can work anywhere. Look at my presentation I did this morning. British Columbians want the truth. I'll tell you the truth. There's a whole world of hurt coming. People are suffering. People are dying. That's not me. That's Greta Thunberg. Right? The world is going to hell in a handbasket, and what are we to do about it? I can't save other countries. I can't even save Kamloops. What I can do is showcase and roll out models of resiliency, of adaptation, of transition. And you do it with a smile, because the psychological impacts of climate change is going to tear a hole in all of you. You are going to be worried about your children. Don't be. Give them hope. Give them opportunity. Give them a video, right? Unleash me on them. I do Skype.
On that note, go ahead. And
I just wanted to use the advertisement for the First Nations in British Columbia. We do have funding. So I'm from First Nations Health Authority, the Climate Change and Health Specialist. So anybody who is in BC and First Nations, get my card and we can talk.
Just
I don't decide it.
Bullshit! She has planning dollars. Do you have any infrastructure dollars yet? No, I need infrastructure dollars. But the government is starting to say, hey, maybe you need a climate change adaptation strategy. Maybe you need a solar feasibility. I need money to build projects. We're not even there yet. But Dr. Abernathy does have the ability, if you don't have a climate change assessment plan, right? You may be able to get it. So as you work and you get these plans, then the funders will invest in you. I'm just teasing Dr. Abernathy because trust me, I'm getting very used to hide. Anybody want to help me build a greenhouse? No. Anybody want to help me put in water storage? No. Do you need feasibility dollars? I'm sorry, I'm not eligible. I did that 6 years ago. Same as the stuff you saw the spike here. I'm not eligible for forced fire hazard reductions because my community was facing a fire hazard. So we did it without government support. So I'm no longer eligible to reduce the fire hazard to my community because we already did it on our own. If your community is facing a risk or a hazard, don't wait for a third party, do it. But I hear a lot of people say, but I don't have a grant for it. That's ass backwards. What you do is do it, and then go to Dr. Abernathy in March and say, do you have any slippage?
Please join me in thanking our speakers. Thank you all for a very inspiring session and really wrapped up a wonderful day. Thank you all.